Hello and welcome to the latest video on the layout. In this video we're going to be developing this preserved station area and the interchange station for the main line, and then also hopefully by the end of the video we'll have extended it outside. I'm going to start by removing all the stock off as part of the layout. Got to clear it up. I've also got to realign a couple of tracks before we tackle some of the detailing, which will include the shed floor for the engine shed workshop area. I've also got to paint this white area here. Now this was ballasted with real ash out of my coal fire, but it's dried white, so that needs sorting out. So we'll clear all the stock off it and then we'll get cracking. When you're getting the stock off the layout and all the little bits, it's handy to grab yourself a cardboard box just to put all the little bits in, like this, so they don't get lost. And that small Land Rover, keep them in a box until you're ready to put them back on the layout. That includes buildings as well, because the buildings will get in the way whilst we're developing this area. As we're modelling this as a preserved line, you can get away with having things on the layout that you wouldn't usually expect to see. This is a Corgi 176 scale Blackpool tram. We can have it sat there. It's a preserved line, so it can be there for posterity to be preserved. Also, it's worth looking in the scrap boxes at your local model shop. This Hornby Black 5 front, missing buffers, and it's off a tender drive model. This will be weathered up as a loco waiting restoration, pretty much like this Dapol J94 kit. This was bought from a second-hand part in the model shop to go with one that I'd done myself a few years ago. Personally, I prefer the weathering on my own one, so we'll be tackling this. I may even do a video on how to weather that up so it looks like it's in need of restoration like this one. Also, the signals I'm going to be using are these. These are old Meccano ones, and this started life as a double distant, which appear to be quite common, but I altered it to 2 home boards. I may do a video on how to restore these signals at a later date if there's sufficient interest. At this end of the station, I need to move these 2 tracks. They were laid before I acquired this pre-built engine shed from, again, second hand from the local model shop. So I'm going to move these 2 tracks over slightly so that they go in the shed, and there's more room for storage of locomotives, etc. And we'll develop some scenery to go behind where these scrap buildings are. Develop some scenery up around the tunnel, and then hopefully take it outside. So we'll crack on with that. Right, I've extended the loco sidings or storage sidings now so that the shed sits there, and also started work on the embankment to hide the tunnel mouth. That needs another coat of plaster, but now they've been extended, the loco shed sits nicely there with plenty of clearance and backs up to the embankment like that. I've also ballasted it, and once it's all dry, weather it slightly and carry on with more of it. Once that's dry, I'm going to clean the track and then test all the track. A bit of advice I will give, especially for DCC users: when you test the track, test it with the smallest wheelbase loco you've got. This is a Nightwing shunter kit that I motorised with the proper kit and gear, and it's digitally fitted. This is the shortest wheelbase engine I've got, so if I test it with this, I know of any dead spots, whereas longer wheelbase engines can bridge dead spots, so it doesn't give you quite as good a reliable running when it comes to running the smaller engines like that. Once that's all tested, I'm going to top the wooden platforms with Metcalf tarmac sheets, as I did in the station in the previous video for the village scene. And then once they're on dry, edge the platforms, and then we'll start work on the shed floor. The shed is permanently fixed in position this with removable roofs, and the roofs are held on with magnets, 4 on each corner and then 4 on the corresponding roof. Well, that's the platforms all topped and the edging added. There are a few bits that need touching up. A few bits of brick paper needs replacing where I've slipped with a knife and cut it, but it's not looking too bad. The scenery over the scenic break out into the garden is coming along nicely. I've added some heather scatter so it looks a little bit pinkish, and the engine shed for the preserved lines installed as well. Not looking too bad overall. Pleased with progress so far. Bit of background to why I wanted this preserved line and how it fits into the main layout. My justification is that this junction here used to go through the tunnel into the outdoor railway to either a coal mine, aggregate mine, military depot, anything like that, and then it closed. Preservationists took it over. This building, in my reality, used to be a wagon works. It's now been taken over by the preservation people. But then in a twist of fate, in the mid-80s, the coal mine or quarry or the MOD base had to reopen. So British Rail and the authorities approached the preservationists and have done a lease and agreement that from time to time revenue trains can run along here to the terminus that will be eventually at Dresden Hag in the garden shed. So I can run coal, aggregate, speedlink, MOD services, anything like that. Should be a bit of variety. I know that on other preserved lines like the Nene Valley Railway, they had a pipe train run. The West Somerset Railway had stone on it, and the Mid Norfolk Railway runs military traffic from time to time, so it's not exactly out of reality. But that's the premise of having a branch into the garden. There is another reason why I want to go outside into the garden, and that is this man's fault.
Welcome once again to the Garden Railway, where things are really beginning to take shape. However, one important area that we've yet to cover. Would you leave your track like this?
After seeing Mark Found's series on Discovery about 10-15 years ago, I've always wanted to have a garden railway. It was an inspiration. It still is available on YouTube. I'll post a link in the comments. Mark's put most of them on YouTube to watch. It is an inspirational programme, and that's what got me wanting an outdoor railway. I have tried in the past. I've had a little layout around a flower bed. This is the track bed I'll be using outside. 20mm thick by nearly 8 foot long, or 2400mm in old money gravel boards. Supported on your communal garden fence posts. Will be cut to size and then feather edge board to add a nice fascia to the outside. So without further ado, we'll start construction and hopefully it'll work out well. Right, that's the first bit done. That just goes you through some of the construction. There's a bracket on the wall holding the gravel board in place. This has been cut because this needs to be a lift out section for access around the side of the garage. And the post has been concreted in the ground using fast set post fix. And we'll carry on. Unfortunately, there's a concrete garden edging I'm going to have to work around because it's too big to dig out. So that's the first bit. We'll carry on and then we can paint it. Well, there we are after day one. The gravel boards are up and braced up to that last post. That's where the curve is going to start. A lot of room on here for twin track, and then into the tunnel which goes inside. Would have been more done today, but unfortunately thunderstorms stopped play. So that's it for this day one. Day two we'll continue up there to the challenging part of the curve. At the end of day one you saw it got to here. Well, this is 3 days later, and we've got the wood all the way around on its posts, all the way to this part where I've doubled the boards up, ready for the station area. It took a few days because of work and the inclement weather. After all the hot weather, we've had a lot of thunderstorms and rain. But as you can see, it is coming along quite nicely. Still got to brace these gravel boards over here. I have done these ones. This is, like I said, where the double track station's going to be. It will continue down there on a tighter curve around here into that shed. But it's been relatively easy going. About a third of a bag of postcrete per post, because they're not that deep, but they are secure, as you can see. They're very secure, not moving at all. And these curves are more than capable of taking 2 track round there quite gently. Yeah, so that's 5 days in, and we've done 42 feet of board. I'm going to finish up next. I've got 1 board left and about a third of a board, so I'm going to put those on and then bring it to a halt. Then I'm going to paint it all, and then once it's painted, we can start adding track. It will take a couple of coats, but it's getting there slowly. I just mocked up the station area so you can have an idea of what it will look like when it's done. I'm using Hornby plastic platforms that will stay outside all year. Should be okay in the weather because they're plastic, it's durable. Metal footbridge will stay out, and the signal box will also stay out all year. But I'll give you some idea of what the station area will look like once it's done. I think it looks pretty awesome myself. One thing I will say, if you are building a garden railway, leave room behind so you can get in, cut your hedges, paint your fences. Don't build it right up, otherwise you'll have difficulty later when it comes to maintaining your hedgerows, etc. But yeah, so now I've had a little bit of a play time, it'll be time to take that off and then stain the wood. Well, that's the wood all stained, a nice charcoaly grey colour to mimic a track bed. I chose this Ronseal, allegedly 1 coat fence life. This is not 1 coat. This has had 4 coats, and there are still places where it could do with another one. It says on the box, does exactly what it says on the tin. The less said about that, the better. 1 coat if you want it to look like a washed out colour, but this has had 4 coats and it's starting to look good now. I've also started to add a fascia board to the front, a feather edge board. I will do the back once I've completed the wiring, because the wiring will all be run along the back underneath here. So for this video, that's about it. You'll have to stay tuned for part 2 when we start track laying and the wiring, and hopefully have some trains running through the tunnel onto the outside section. I've also got to figure out the electrics and plugs that will go with this lift up section. So yeah, thanks for watching, hope you found it enjoyable, and like I said, stay tuned for part 2 when track laying will commence.